make some pumpkin scones, and we're gonna start by putting 4 cups of all-purpose flour in the mixer. And then we're gonna add a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of baking powder, a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice, and this is my homemade pumpkin pie spice. I'll link you to a video down below. A half a cup of packed brown sugar, and I'm gonna go ahead and give this a bit of a mix. And then I'm gonna put in a stick of butter that I have cubed up, and you want that to be cold butter, and 1 brick of cream cheese that is also cold, but cream cheese is kind of soft anyway. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut the fat into the flour and the dry ingredients. All right, I have a 1/4 cup of heavy cream in my measuring jug. I'm going to add a half a cup of pumpkin puree, 1 egg, just like that, and a splash of vanilla, like a teaspoon. And then we're just going to kind of mix that up. All right, now what we have over here is our flour mixture, and we have cut the cream cheese and the butter into the flour. It looks like crumbs, and all we want to do now is we want to add this liquid ingredients. Make sure you scrape that down. Now this is where you don't want to overmix it. Overmixing your scones at this point is going to make them tough. Alright, I removed our scone dough from the mixer, and it's kind of crumbly and it looks a little bit dry. But if you go ahead and you knead this a little bit, and just bring it all together into itself, it's going to be perfect. And I did put a little flour on the board. And just like when you make baking powder biscuits, when I've showed you how to do that, like buttermilk biscuits, I like to turn the dough onto itself a couple of times. This is a bit stiffer than your biscuit dough. And you want to make sure that the moisture is going to be well distributed among the dough. You don't want soft spots, and you don't want super dry spots either. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just spread this out so that we can cut our scones. Alright, I have rolled out my dough, and this is approximately 12 inches by 8 inches-ish, 8.5, somewhere around there. You want to take your knife then, and because I am who I am, inches, so 4.5. And then we want to cut 3-inch squares across, so we're going to cut it 3, 6, and 9. This is why it's important to have a ruler in the kitchen. And then all you're going to do is you're going to cut along those score lines, and then you're going to take and cut each one of these in a triangle. Alright, we got our scones rolled out, and I'll tell you a little secret. They didn't look so even, did they? And I re-rolled them. So what we're doing is, you can see now I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 24 scones. We cut it, we rolled it out, I rolled it out again, well, I patted it out into a 9 by 12 rectangle, and I cut it into 12 squares, and then I cut each of those squares into 2 triangles. But what I've done there is I have sprinkled these, I brushed them with heavy cream, just a little bit. And now we're going to sprinkle these with a little coarse sugar. I have my oven preheated at 350 degrees, and we're going to pop these in there, and we are going to bake them for 15 to 18 minutes, or until they're puffed and slightly golden brown. All right, I'm going to pull these scones. They're ready to come out of the oven. They smell amazing, and they're a little bit crispy on the top, and that's just how you want them. Now, you want these to sit on they're not totally brown on the bottom. That's how you want them as well, but they're cooked all the way through. Now, you want these to sit on the sheet for 5 minutes before you move them off to a cooling rack. And there you have it, delicious pumpkin scones, ready for any time. We're going to go over all the ingredients and then we're going to start mixing up this super easy pumpkin cake. I'm going to put a maple glaze on it a little bit later, but when it comes out of the oven, we'll go ahead and show you that. You're going to start off with, I have 2 cups of packed brown sugar that I have in a quart jar because it's loose, so it looks like more cups, but it's actually 2 cups packed. 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of solid packed pumpkin, this is pumpkin puree, and only 1 cup. So if you use a can of pumpkin, not pumpkin pie mix, just pure pumpkin, you're going to be able to get 2 cakes out of 1 can. A cup of buttermilk, and then we got 2 eggs, and a teaspoon each of baking powder, baking soda, and salt, and 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, and the tablespoon of vanilla extract. This cake is so easy, you don't need a mixer. I'm just going to go ahead and mix it up in a bowl. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and get our sugar, our pumpkin, our buttermilk, and our eggs. We're just going to toss all of this in the bowl at once, along with our vanilla. And with our handy stirrer, we're just going to give this a great mix. Then we're going to go ahead and add our baking powder, baking soda, salt, and spices, along with our 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And again, mix that in really well. That's as easy as that gets. Give this a little bit of a stir with your spatula just to make sure that there's no loose flour running around in there. And did any of you notice what's missing from this cake? Oil. Yeah, there's no fat, there's no butter, there's no oil. The only fat that's in the cake is actually the egg yolks and the buttermilk. So then what we want to do is we want to get a bunt pan. You can make this a number of ways. I'm going to spray my bunt pan really well. You want to make sure it's even. I'm going to bake this for 30 to 40 minutes and it will be done when a skewer poked in the center comes out clean. You can put it in a 9x13 pan for 25 to 30 minutes, or you can make this into cupcakes, and I would bake those for 15 to 18 minutes, again using the toothpick test, which is pretty standard. I'm baking this in a 350-degree oven, and this is going to go take a long warm nap until it's all ready, and then I'll bring you back when it's time to turn it out. Alright, my cake baked for 55 minutes. I checked it at 30, and then I checked it at 40, and I let it go another 15. So in the bunt pan, it was 55 minutes. And you're going to want to check yours at approximately the same intervals because every oven is different. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn this out. I have some parchment here. It's gorgeous. You can just see how nice and moist it's going to be. I'm going to let this cool, and then I'm going to glaze it. I'm just going to make a powdered sugar glaze with a little maple extract, a little vanilla extract, and a splash of pure maple syrup. And then we're just going to glaze it. I'll bring you back when we're all done, and I'll show you what it looks like. And there you have it, a delicious pumpkin bundt cake with a maple glaze. I didn't show you how to make the glaze, but I will include the instructions in the recipe that is available on the Noreen's Kitchen website. Link is always down below. This is just my simple icing glaze, and in place of some of the milk, I went ahead and I added some pure maple syrup, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a teaspoon of maple extract, and a pinch of salt. And I just mixed it up with 2 cups of powdered sugar until it was the consistency I wanted it to be. I added a little bit of milk and until it was nice and thick so that it clung to the sides of the cake. And now I'm going to go ahead, this is actually the next morning, but I wanted you to see what it looked like on the inside. And there you have it. That is a beautiful pumpkin bundt cake. I hope that you give this a try. We're going to go over all of the ingredients for our pumpkin crunch pie. This is a pumpkin pie with streusel on the top. We're going to start with a basic pumpkin pie recipe. I have 1 15-ounce can or 1.5 cups of fresh pureed pumpkin, 1 cup of sugar, 1 14-ounce can of evaporated, not condensed milk, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of flour, 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, half a teaspoon of salt. This is for the pie. The custard. Over here we have 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 stick of butter cut into cubes, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. This is going to comprise our streusel. So we're going to go ahead and let's mix up our milk and our pumpkin. Let's just get our whisk in there. We'll add our sugar, and then we'll break in a couple of eggs. And then we'll add all of our dry spices and our flour and our salt right on in there. And then over here I have my pie shell. We're gonna go ahead and pour this all in there. This is where the magic happens. You think that we're gonna put the streusel on top right now, but we're not. Right now, we have our oven preheated to 425 degrees. We're going to bake this pie for 15 minutes. In the meantime, we're gonna make our streusel. So I'm gonna pop this right in the oven for 15 minutes. Okay, we're gonna make our streusel. So basically you wanna mix your butter and your sugars together, just like that. Add your flour. You can do this in a mixer if you like. I just didn't feel like taking the mixer out. You can already see it's starting to turn into a crumb, and that's what you want. And if I, want, I can just get my hands in here too. And that's your streusel. So we're gonna wait for our pie to come out of the oven, and then we're going to sprinkle this on top. All right, our pie has been in the oven for about 15 minutes, and now we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna sprinkle this streusel over the top. And you want to make sure that the streusel is somewhat even across the top of the pie. You want everybody to be able to have some of that goodness. It's going to be awesome. All right, this is going to be returned to the oven for an additional 45 to 50 minutes, or it will be finished when a knife inserted in the center comes out clean and you see no indication that there's still a lot of moisture going on in there. Okay, our pumpkin crunch pie has come out of the oven just now, and I'm so pleased with how it looks. I think it's gorgeous. I also neglected to tell you, it is written in the recipe on my website, noreenskitchen.com, when we remove it from the oven after the first 15 minutes to put the streusel on the top, we want to reduce the oven to 350 degrees from 425 degrees. Then you bake it for the additional 45 minutes at 350. That is included in the recipe, so you'll want to make sure that you refer to that so you don't forget, like I forgot to tell you. We're going to let this cool for at least 2 hours. You want it to be completely cool and firm before you cut into it. And there you have it, our pumpkin crunch pie with that brown sugar streusel. This pie has been cooling for a few hours now. You can see this was the first slice I took out, and then I took it out and I cut this slice because the first slice is never ever the best one. So I made a pretty slice for you over here. This is really yummy. You're gonna love it.